Text 29. बेपदुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गाण्डीवं श्रंसते वक्षैव परिदत्यते. Translation. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. Perfect. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandiva was slipping from his hands, and because of his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life.
So mental state appears in the physical condition also. So the Arjuna's mental state is in a stressful state, and all these symptoms are basically arising from a mental stressful situation. And so all these things, like, so Prabhupada also says, saying that standing of the hair. So when somebody goes in ecstasy means it's a spiritual emotion, and in an ecstatic spiritual symptom, then the hairs will stand. It's like, so you are seeing somebody for the first time, after a long time, and and if you are with very closely attached to that person, then such emotions can erupt there. So Prabhupada also mentioning here that Arjuna is having these symptoms out of material fear. Here Prabhupada is saying out of material fear, and then some verses back he was saying that because of Arjuna's spiritual nature, he was having compassion towards the other people. So either way, even though he had compassion, but then this is basically arising out of his material fear. And this burning sensation of the skin and head reeling and all of that is basically causing from the mental stressful state. 30th.
30th sloka. न च शक्नोमि अवस्थातुं ब्रह्मतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Kesi demon. Perfect. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam द्वितीया विनिवेशतः क्षयात्. Bhagavatam 11.2.37. Such fearlessness and loss of mental equilibrium takes place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words Nimithani, Viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectation, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's strength. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him.
Yeah. Two things here mentioned by Prabhupada. Due to his impatience, impatience is like when somebody is looking for the result very quickly. And whenever I mean, basically, he's also impatient because he wants to run away from this place now. And he was unable to stand in the battlefield. He was forgetting himself. So sometimes we go blank, so certain situations we go blank. So that's kind of getting blank. Arjuna is getting blank. Uh, and on account of weakness of his mind, and all these things are also because of the excessive attachment for material things. Now, you may say that, okay, Arjuna is not willing to fight because he doesn't want the kingdom. So where the attachment is coming from? So his attachment is not for the kingdom. His attachment is for the people with whom he's going to fight. So that's the kind of attachment that is mentioned here. And that is why he's put into the condition. So bhayam dviti abhinivesasya. So this is said that when uh, when somebody's attachment is favorable, then it becomes inspiration. When the attachment is unfavorable, it becomes fear. So here the attachment is unfavorable, and that is why it is causing fear. So it's a principle of that type. That. And such fearfulness is loss of mental equilibrium, and who affect happens to the people those are too affected by the material conditions. And Arjuna's envisioning of reversals, that means nimittani cha viparitani. So nimittani means I only see the causes of destruction or devastation. This is the kind of situation when people go blank, and one only sees reversals, and one does not see any opportunity. One does not see any scope of positivity there. So this is again happens with the close-mindedness or narrow-minded, narrow thinking. That way, one is not open for uh, a lot of scope of basically not thinking in the positive direction. Now, this is something like, even if he wins over the enemy or the foe, he would still not be happy, and that's what he's trying to say. And in this case, a man is only seeing frustration of his expectations. So his expectations, I mean, he's going to tell in the future verses that his expectations is like, I want to have the kingdom also, I want to have the relatives also. So in this case, both are not possible. So he's thinking to have both, and then that kind of expectation is causing frustration. And he's thinking that, why am I here? And now Prabhupada is making another point here, that everyone is interested in himself. No one is interested in the supreme self. Now, uh, when so only Prabhupada can make a statement of this type, where uh, so so anybody will just pop up a question that why should somebody think of the supreme self? I mean, people are always looking for something for themselves. Why somebody should think about the supreme self? So because the best self-interest is to uh, take care of the soul, and the best thing that uh, can happen of taking care of the soul is by serving the Lord and by taking interest in Vishnu or Krishna. That is the best self-interest. And that's why Prabhupada is making this point, that the real self-interest is following the Krishna's will. And that is knowledge, and everything else is ignorance. So one's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. So when the conditioned soul forgets this, the mental suffering starts. And any material adjustments would not help actually. Any material adjustments will not help. I mean, whether you win a victory or win a war, or lose a war, or lose something or win something, whatever it is. If the interest is not in Vishnu or Krishna, no matter what we do, it's all going to be, uh, frustrating and not so happy. Yeah. 31st.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Here, Arjuna is said that he is bewildered. Generally, Arjuna is not that kind of person who gets bewildered. Right?
Hmm.
But maybe for the Gita,
Yeah, that's
for
what
it to
Prabhupada is mentioning here, that Arjuna is getting bewildered by Krishna's will. By Krishna's will. So if you see in one of the lines, Prabhupada is mentioning that he's getting bewildered by Krishna's will. So Krishna is kind of putting him in that situation so that the Gita can be revealed.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
न च श्रेयोऽनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखानि च. I don't see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned soul are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten moral codes of for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture or eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considered himself fit to go to the forest to live a secluded life of frustration.
Sometimes people approach me and say that, I just want to come with you, join temple, and do service for the rest of my life and all of that. So most of the time when I start to speak to them, this is the decision they take out of frustration, not out of renunciation. So there is a difference between frustration and renunciation, and that's why Prabhupada is mentioning that the two types of people, one who is uh, frustrated and one who is renounced. So a renounced person is willingly and making a choice to give up the attachments, but whereas the frustration is where the person giving up material things out of frustration does not last long. So even for a sake, when if Arjuna would have gotten a chance to go to the forest, he could not remain in the forest for good time. you know he would have got frustrated even there also, because that's not his nature. As a kshatriya, it's not his nature. So that's why Prabhupada is saying that it is a blind conception of life. And uh, one uh, my spiritual master makes one statement that you cannot keep changing material situations to become happy. Rather, we should choose to surrender to Krishna, or surrender or take shelter of Krishna, or take shelter of the situation. I mean, a situation in the sense that the situation that is coming up to us. If we don't take here There's a power cut here, so just the whole thing went blank. Just power left. So, okay, we'll continue. So it doesn't matter. Is it okay? Can you hear?
Yes, bro.
Okay, so I was saying the eligibility of a person who kind of what I was saying was, yeah, people who, those who forget the real essence to be self-interest of Lord Krishna or Vishnu, they get into the bodily attachments, and that is what is happening here with Arjuna, that he's getting into kind of a bodily conception where he's thinking, and he's thinking in a way where he's thinking that I cannot do my duty as a Kshatriya now, and he wants to renounce his uh, responsibility as a Kshatriya, which is not allowed in, actually it is not allowed, and it is detrimental for one's growth also. One's well-being, forget well-being or growth, just even sustenance. And that's why Prabhupada also mentioned that being Kshatriya, Arjuna was supposed to rule, and ruling and administration is the duty of a Kshatriya. So a Kshatriya must do that, and one cannot remain without doing that. It's like, a student is supposed to study, and if a person is working, he's supposed to work. So whatever the responsibility that one takes, one should execute that responsibility, and one cannot run away from that. So Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, he should continue with the fight, and for his subsistence, he requires a kingdom. And if he fights, he will get the kingdom and continue with that. And if he doesn't fight, then he will basically lose the whole thing. And it's not good to run away from his responsibility. That's what Prabhupada is saying. And out of frustration, if somebody gives up one's responsibility, then karmic reactions will also attract, because you are supposed to be in that situation, and supposed to be in that situation because of certain karmic role, certain karmic laws or the karmic reactions. And if somebody wants to run away from that, then you are kind of dodging the karmic reaction. So that's going to be coming on heavily again. So one cannot run away from one's responsibilities. And today's day and age, we see that many people, they kind of just think of running away from situations. They want to escape. They want to, what we say, they want to do things which is not, uh, they don't want to do. They just want to escape the responsibility, or because it is painful, because it is difficult, because it is inconvenient, because it is costing a lot, because it needs a lot of effort for whatever reason. So, then that would also attract a lot of karmic reactions eventually, if you don't do your own duty. Yeah. Okay. 32 to 35.
Hare Krishna. किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा येषामर्थे काङ्क्षितं नो राज्यं भोगसुखानि च तैमेव स्थिता युद्धे प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च आचार्य पितरः पुत्रास् तथैव च पितामहः मातुलः श्वशुराः पौत्रः शालाः सम्भान्धिनास्तथा एतान् न हन्तुम् इच्छामि नथोपि मधुसूदन अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य हेतो किं नु मही कृते निहत्याधार Tarashtrantna Kapridhisya Janardana. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, father in law, grandsons, brother in law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them even in exchange of 3 words, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Purport. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses. Lord will satisfy the senses of living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to his friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed in the battlefield and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kind of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in the following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person of his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Hare Krishna.
Arjuna's addressing Krishna as Govinda. So Govinda basically refers to as Go means cow or senses. Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the cow or senses. And Arjuna is asking that, you are supposed to give me pleasure. You are supposed to give me and my senses pleasure. Uh, so this is another indirect way of saying Krishna that, you have all the power. So you want them to be killed. So you kill them. Why you are putting me and in this ghastly warfare and then bloodshed and all of this? So you only kill them. Why should I kill them? So many times we kind of face this kind of situations where some people maybe in the workplace or maybe in some situations where people say that you want this thing to be done, I don't want to do this, why don't you only do this? And many times that happens, right? And they don't want to take the responsibility of that particular thing. But here Krishna has already decided that they will be killed, and Krishna has already killed them in a way. Arjuna has just to become an instrument to do that. But the calculation of Arjuna is that if everybody is killed, then whom I will share with my whom I will share with the opulences. So it's like, so when you have something, you want to make a show, or at least uh, be or share the things with others. So either show or share the things with others. For that, the relatives and other people are required. And when nobody is there, then whom do you share and whom do you show? So that will be like, I have so much of things, but then there is nobody to share. I have so much of things, but then there is nobody to show. So there is no point in that. So another point Krishna is saying, that Prabhupada is saying here, that one should accept all kinds of opulences for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, one should not accept a farthing. So this is again coming in terms of being aligned with Krishna's will. So when somebody is aligned with Krishna's will, then one would be in this state that one will not accept anything for their own pleasure if Krishna is not willing, and one would accept anything for Krishna's pleasure if Krishna is willing. So that's why Prabhupada also did the similar things, did the same thing basically. I mean, he accepted a lot of riches and many things to spread the Krishna conscious movement. And when it was time, so he was ready to relinquish everything. It is something that can be seen in pure devotees, where they are not attached materially anything to anything material basically. And it is not a natural quality of a devotee to retaliate with people. Retaliation is coming from envy. And because Arjuna was non-envious, so he was non-envious of Krishna also. I mean, he was non-envious of everybody. So he was non-envious of Krishna also. So he was non-envious to everybody else. Now, if you see towards the end, when the actual war happens, so even when Arjuna is shooting, he's shooting with compassion. He's not shooting with thinking that I want to kill this person. No, he's shooting with compassion, because if I have to, if this person is not killed, then it will cause greater damage to the society than, then he lives. So he is compassionate now, and he'll be compassionate in the future also, but then the actions will change, right? So intentions will be clarified, and the actions will be in the right direction as per Krishna's will. Now, Arjuna or any devotee would not would not retaliate because they are non-envious. But at the same time, if somebody does something bad to a devotee, Krishna will not tolerate that. Krishna will not tolerate the things of a miscreant. And that is why Krishna has already decided that they should all be killed. And that's why Prabhupada is also mentioning that the Lord can excuse somebody on his own account. That means if somebody tells Krishna something, okay, Krishna doesn't exist, or Krishna is bad and all of that, then Krishna will just excuse them. But then if somebody does harm to a devotee, then Krishna will not spare. Krishna will not spare anyone. And Krishna is really serious about it. I mean, you can see the series of events that is there in the Bhagavatam, whether we talk about Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, and Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. So he doesn't spare anyone. I mean, if something happens to a devotee, then he's on it. He's like, he would not excuse, he will not spare them. So it is again to our discretion that if you want to become a devotee, say serious devotee, then definitely Krishna is there with us. And Krishna will purify us, but Krishna will be there with us. That's something that would Krishna want to do, because Krishna is grateful for a devotee, and a devotee is grateful to Krishna. So asking Krishna for material favors is okay, but asking Krishna for devotional service is the best. So when we ask Krishna for devotional service or bhakti, then that would actually elevate our consciousness, and that would actually better our situation, even material, even for that matter. He would actually kind of solve our mental problems also to put us in a better spiritual position. I've seen multiple times happening this. So if somebody is seriously uh, doing devotional service, his material things also get settled over a period of time. It takes a while, but then his material things also get settled in the sense that health would get better, the earning means would get better, relations would settle down, and things will basically come to a point where you can do steady devotional service, steady bhakti. So those things will automatically happen. But then we should not, we should pursue the process of devotional service very diligently and seriously, without making a break, without making a an excuse, or without making any, you know, shortcomings. Shortcomings will be there, but then we should still continue to perform our devotional service regularly. And Krishna sees that sincerity. Krishna sees that uh, consistency. And when Krishna is pleased, then he would give a lot of things, and also facilitate the devotional service. He would give a lot of things only to facilitate the devotional service, not to increase our material attachments. Yeah, so any questions? So should we start now?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sure.